Hello and welcome to Hadfield Education's Good to Great webinar series, where I interview the leading head teachers from across the UK. And today I'm joined by Neave, who is the Executive Head Teacher for Drumbeat School and ASD service around the Lewisham area. Good morning, Mary. How are you?
Good morning, Lee. I'm good.
Excellent, excellent. Well, what I like to do, Mary, is always start at the beginning and find out sort of what took you into teaching. So where did it all begin?
Well, I was born in Derry in Northern Ireland, and I was born into a teaching family. My mum and dad are both teachers, one primary school and one maths teacher in secondary school. And I was born right at the beginning of the Troubles in Northern Ireland. And we had a big emphasis on education in Northern Ireland, and particularly for my family as well. So it was very important. It was our way forward. It was also our way out. I enjoyed my years in education in Northern Ireland. They were good. But I went on to a degree in Dublin in Trinity College, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Knew that I didn't want to be a teacher, and then changed my mind and thought, well, I'll get the qualification, and came to London. Went to the Institute of Education, and I sort of got the bug, and a history teacher. And I met a teacher, head of history, in a school called Cannons High in, it's not Harrow, but it's in that area, and Brent. And it was a challenging school, but this history teacher was very inspirational. And I ended up doing her maternity cover. And that was it really. I was teaching in London then history for years. I then moved to Kent, was head of history in Medway in a large secondary school there in Gillingham. Again, quite a deprived area, but great school, great experience. And then decided at that point I had two young girls, that I'd go part-time.
Okay.
And eventually went into the world of pupil referral units. And that was interesting, trying to teach history to kids that were excluded and in gangs, basically all boys. And but it was interesting and exhilarating. I really had to teach. And sort of went from one thing to another and ended up then being a head in Bromley, in charge of three schools, three pupil referral units in Bromley. And decided then I'd set up my own business, and did 5 years doing educational consultancy. Worked for Harris in Beckenham, and also Kent County Council for 4 years, doing senior improvement advisor. And I then decided I really missed Headship and decided to come back in Lewisham. And this is my 4th year in Drumbeat School. Enjoying being part of a big family of a lot of staff and a lot of kids. We're over 200 now, and it's really good. Yeah.
So what took you into the PRU and the special needs sort of niche within education then? Because it's not something that like suits everybody. What was your sort of calling?
Well, it wasn't a calling. It was to do with family requirements, and it was very flexible. I could do part-time.
Okay.
And I was given quite a lot of flexibility on what I could teach, you know, within the sort of boundaries of GCSE, but there was all sorts of things that you could do outside of that as well. And I really started enjoying creating a curriculum that suited the needs of the children, rather than being told that this is what you have to teach in history and this is what they have to get. And I really enjoyed that, and I thought this is great. You know, this is real proper personalized education, and then sort of achieving stuff that people generally couldn't do around the behaviour and around the qualifications.
Sure.
Because the kids have been excluded. A lot of them were SEN and children in care, white working class boys. So it was all that group, and just being able to do something with that was very interesting, really sort of captivated my sort of drive to do something in education that made a big difference. So
quite a diverse, like you say, like learner compared to when you first walked through the door into education, into just mainstream schools.
Yeah, I think I've never sort of worked with anything that wasn't really diverse, because, you know, I was in southeast London in Woolwich for nearly 5 years in an all boys school in Woolwich Poly, and that was extremely challenging for a young woman. But again, it was great. The needs were extremely diverse. Just getting them to A levels in university was a challenge.
Sure.
Yeah, so that has always been my sort of audience, that sort of group that is hard to get to, hard to interest, hard to engage, and families that weren't that interested in education. So just being able to do something with that was quite good.
And what were your biggest learns in the early stage of your teaching career?
Get the behaviour right. That was massive, because the biggest challenge in these schools was getting the kids to behave, and having real strict boundaries. Having a staff like Woolwich Poly, you know, you had a staff that really backed you up. You had a lot of older members of staff who would step in to support, bring the kids out if needed, and these were really tough kids. But alongside that, because there's no point in having kids that can behave if you're not teaching.
Yeah.
And just really getting the curriculum right. I changed the curriculum quite radically. It was a lot of work just to get them engaged with the learning. And it was the old schools history project, which was real sort of new approach to history, evidence approach to history.
Yeah.
And the kids really loved it. It was good, and getting your topics right, going, you know, interesting boys,
yeah,
getting them to read. But yeah, no, that was a great start. You know, if you get in somewhere like that in a deep end, you're not going to, apart from when you go to PRU, you're not going to meet anything that's going to sort of overwhelm you too much after that.
Sure. And in terms of the progression, who were the mentors really that stood out to you and gave you again insight that really helped you along your career path?
In my career, I think I've always had a bit of a problem with mentors. I don't know why. It's been hard to get them. And I think I've been more inspired by other strong females that have done well, you know. I remember a head of science. She's gone on to be an Ofsted inspector or something. But she was great, you know, the way that her humour, her strength, the way that she taught was really different. How she engaged the boys there with science as well. So, you know, it's been individuals along the way. You know, knowing what my mother was like in the classroom, she was very inspirational to me, and what she had raised 6 kids, you know, and still work, and, you know, still be this, you know, tower of strength. And she's about to turn 90, so
brilliant.
You know, yeah. So you know, we've got quite a matriarchal family. It's 5 girls, very strong mother. and a granny that was inspirational to me as well. So trying to get that, you know, somewhere else is interesting. When I was in the PRU in Bromley, I had an extremely, again, inspirational mentor who was the ex-head of a specials or a PRU in I think it was Richmond. And she gave me a lot of good advice, because that was my first headship and that was really tough. So
how did you find the transition into headship?
Tough, really.
What were the difficulties, the main sort of challenges that you faced?
In a PRU, it's you. There's not much support around. It's, you know, who do you lift the phone to? You know, when you're a secondary head, you've got a lot of other secondary heads that you can sort of talk to. You're the PRU in the borough.
Yeah.
And you've got the most challenging kids in that borough that nobody else wants. And you're supposed to be providing the solution. So I think that's a big challenge. The work was colossal. Trying to get my staffing right, because it was like some sort of social club, you know, youth club.
Yeah.
It wasn't a school at all. Get my leadership team around me, and all the time it's a battle with the authority to try and get things the way that you want to get it, and get the funding in place as well.
How did you overcome those?
I think I was probably quite difficult, and just really battled to get cameras in so we could, you know, make sure we've got evidence of stuff that's going on, and move on that. Just a lot of, I networked a lot in London, London Challenge, seeing the best, you know, heads out there, and visited them, seen what they were doing. Asked for advice, used my mentor, and that sort of thing, and just really stay strong, but know that things are not always going to work out the way that you want them to work out, particularly in a PRU.
Yeah, absolutely. So then was that at the point that you took your break?
No, that's when I went back in. I took my break after being head of history for quite a while, and did part-time in a PRU, and then when my youngest started going to primary school, I went in as head then.
Okay.
And then I went into the business thing, yeah.
And then from there, so how did the business thing come about?
I just thought, do you know what, I'm fed up. I wanted to become an academy, to give us more sort of, you know, leeway with what we needed to do. Couldn't do that, and I thought, right, that's it. I'm going to do something else. So then I was approached for work, and I did that for a while. But you are on your own when you run the business. You're on your own. You're constantly wondering where, you know, what's going to be next, and how long is the contract going to be. So, which is fine. You know, it went on for 5 years. It was good. I learned loads, because you go right across, you know, a massive sector of different types of schools, and you learn lots, and you learn about skill improvement, which is brilliant when you go back in as head, because you can just say this is what we need to be doing, which can be quite hard if you're just on the inside all the time, you know.
So was there a specific sort of element that you would go in and help a school with, or were there unique sort of tasks or opportunities?
Yeah, so it depended where the school was, whether they were amber, green, or red. So special measures, or you know, so it depended where they were. So it was supporting them through an inspection.
Yeah,
I did training with them. I also was the lead for pupil premium across the Kent, so I did a lot of training with all schools. For that, I did reviews, did SEN reviews. But it really depended on where they were as a school, if it was light touch, or if it was more of a deep dive on, you know, looking up what the teaching was like, what training they needed, how to improve progress. And often it's not, I was looking at the groups, the SEN and PP groups were usually a challenge, and what we could do, put in place to improve those results.
Excellent. And what achievements sort of stood out to you during that time?
The PRUs, there was 18 PRUs I was in charge of, and
Wow.
when I left, they had all moved to good or outstanding, where there was like a lot of them had been in special measures.
Brilliant.
The results went through the roof. 5 GCSEs is the aim in PRUs with their English and maths. So I work with Greenwich University to provide training on literacy.
Okay.
So we could up that sort of quality of teaching within the PRUs. But yeah, it was that was a great achievement.
And for you, what did that boil down to? What were some of the key things that really needed addressing to make such a big impact?
Teaching. It's always about teaching and learning, and the quality of that, and how it's relating to the needs of the children, how you're tackling attendance, and just making sure that the quality of what they're delivering is appropriate, and that you've got qualified teachers. Even though it's a PRU, you need to have that qualified teacher in their place, delivering to them.
Yeah. And then that brought you to Drumbeat?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So tell me about Drumbeat, because it's quite unique, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so it's I'm currently on the new build, the PFI build, and it's a school that is built for children with autism, and each classroom looks pretty much identical, with an outside area, a hygiene area, and low arousal environment. So we have on this site, we have our kids from early years right up to Key Stage 3. And on the other side, it's Key Stage 4 and Key Stage 5. So our numbers have really gone up from being in the 150, I think, to over 200 now, and looking to expand. We've just had our PAN increased.
Brilliant.
And that's great. We've got good staffing levels, and it's a system that works really well. Yeah.
Fantastic. And what took you into the autistic niche?
I just think it's interesting. I'd no background on it, and I think I was employed for the leadership and strategic things, but I've learned so much as a result of being here, and what the staff do to support these children who are it's highly complex autism.
Yeah.
So they are real experts in their field on how to de-escalate, how to manage the behavior, how to, they're all teach trained, so making sure that the handling is right. But also a big thing was the teaching again, so making sure teaching's right. Yeah. Our TAs now are coming in with degrees and everything, which wasn't the case before, so we've got highly qualified TAs. We have a program where last year there was 5 that went on to TAs to be teachers.
Oh, fantastic.
Hopefully we'll get some of them back. So we've got real sort of nice CPD routes for all staff and leadership roles, which works really well.
Sure. And what current initiatives are you running within school?
So we have just finished doing a new curriculum, so pathways for our children, and a new assessment process. We've just had challenge partners in a couple of months ago, and we just identified we've got 33 languages within the school. So they are all children that speak different languages at home, and we're looking at the immersion that they have when they come here, that it seems to work. So that whole EAL and how does that affect learning in autism is interesting. So we're just about to launch onto that, and we're working with, again, Institute of Education, Centre of Research for Autism and Education, and just looking at other schools and what they're doing with that as well. And yeah, just looking at whether we can, sort of branch out to, there's a lot of children that are being sent out of borough, because it's not the places. So if we're able to expand, look at if we are able to have some sort of centre for children who are more high functioning autistic children. So yeah, it's there's always something happening.
And tell me about the service. What does the service involve?
Okay, so services, outreach and extended services. So outreach, which is a team-based here, support all the schools within Lewisham who buy into the service for supporting autism within their schools. So they do training and they do support. Whatever the schools need, they buy in that level of service that they need across primary and secondary. Their capacity is absolutely packed out. The authority use them as well for EHCPs and attendance of panels and things like that, placement of children. But it's very useful because they work with early years as well. So they know a lot of our kids that are looking to be placed here, so they can give us advice on appropriateness of that child for Drumbeat. Extended services is a holiday. So during the holidays, we run a school here so that parents can go through the authority to get time in the school at holidays. So yeah. Excellent.
And what future plans do you have with school?
Expand, I think, because funding has been extremely challenging. That's taken up most of my time the last 2 years.
Wow.
And we've had big cuts that we've had to make, and therefore that's, we've got to expand to make sure that we have the money in the budget to go forward.
Sure.
So it is about expansion, possibly a new build, or build on a build, and just get the numbers on seats. I'd like to do the national qualification for a school improvement advisor, which I put in for. That's interesting, and just develop further that way.
And what advice would you give to any aspiring head teacher, in particular, say teachers that are currently within sort of a PRU or a special needs environment?
HR are your best friend. Make sure that you follow them like the Bible, because it's very easy to go wrong on staffing issues. Have a school's business manager, a good one, in place, because your budget's going to drive you nuts. I would say, your kids and your staff, your kids dictate what you do in school. No matter what decision you do, how is this affecting my children in school? Look after your staff, look after well-being, look after yourself, because it's quite easy not to, and just make sure you have that work-life balance, and don't burn yourself out.
So how do you do that? How do you get away from the daily grind?
I do yoga, I run, I've got dogs, yeah, that's what I do, and I've got good friends to talk to about things that aren't anything to do with education. And
in terms of what book are you reading at the moment?
I'm trying to get started on education you're talking about, yeah. Education of girls on the autism spectrum.
Okay.
So I'm interested in the girls thing. There's quite a lot of stuff going on that, because we've had a big rise in numbers and diagnosis of girls with autism. So that's interesting. So I'm looking to get started in that.
Fantastic. And what about, like I say, we've spoken about getting away from the daily grind. Where's your favourite holiday destination? Where'd you like to get away to?
Oh, well, Ireland. We go to Donegal a lot, yeah, just get grounded and no IT, no digital, nothing, which is nice. France, the Dordogne, I like. New York is amazing, but I like my holidays.
Sounds like it, yeah, sounds like it. Excellent. And what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Oh, by email probably is the best.
Okay.
Yeah. So, do you want me to give my email?
Yeah, you can do.
Yeah. So it's m.neave@drumbeat.lewisham.sch.uk. We have a lot of visitors that come here, so you're very welcome to come and have a look at what we're doing. Yeah.
Fantastic. And what about social profile and social media? Do you have sort of all the Facebook and Twitter?
No, I don't do any of that. No, it's just LinkedIn. But
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What I'll do, I'll add the links onto this this webinar, so people can always click and they can always connect with you that way. And like I say, they can, like you say, they can email and reach out to you.
Yeah, lovely.
Excellent. Well, thank you ever so much for your time. It's been really, really insightful, and a great example of sort of the good work that you're doing within the SEN and in particular the autistic sort of niche of education. And I really appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you, Dave.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.